Well, hello everybody, welcome back. How are you doing? I hope you're really well. I got back from Mallorca yesterday. If you watched the last video, you know that I went with my sister and my niece. We went for 4 nights and we had a lovely time. I didn't do any filming on that trip and I was planning to, but then when I got there, I just thought, I'm with my sister, I'm with my niece. This is the first time we've ever been on holiday together by ourselves. And do I really want to disturb our fun and their holiday with my constant vlogging? And then there's also a rule on YouTube that you're not allowed to include children in your content. If you do, you have to declare it, and I don't know what the rules are with that because I've never done that. But you're definitely not allowed to include kids in your content. And really, I'm not sure whether I want my niece, who's 9, all over YouTube for everybody to see. It's actually quite funny because she told me whilst we were away that her dream job is to be a YouTuber. She's quite fascinated with my job. So maybe in a few years, when she's a teen, she can appear on the channel. She's a great character. We had some amazing fun when we were away. So I had a lovely time. It was great to relax. And so because I was planning to use that content for this episode, I needed to do something else. And one of the great things to do when you need to fill in a gap like this is to do a Q&A, and I realised that I hadn't done one for a long time, so I asked everybody to submit their questions, and now I'm going to do as many of these as we can. I'm not too concerned about how long this video is going to be. If it's an hour, it is. I've got a lot of questions, and I have to say, some really juicy questions. I've done quite a few Q&As over my 6-year YouTube career, and I always find it so fascinating that there are always new ones that I've never seen. So, without further ado, because this is going to be a long video, let's get into it and I will start answering your questions. I've got my questions, so I did 2 posts the other day. I did one on YouTube, a community post where people could submit their questions, and I did an Instagram story. So these are all the ones that I printed out from YouTube, and when it comes to the Instagram questions, I will do those on my phone. I love printing things out. It just makes everything so neat and elegant. I'm going to answer the question that I got the most. I always like to do that first, just to get it out of the way, so that nobody will be waiting for it all to the very end. And this question says, will you get a new fluffy companion, or is it too soon? So this is one of the things that I've been asked quite a lot by not just people who watch me online, but also my own friends in real life and people who know me. So am I going to get a new dog? If you don't know, perhaps you don't, my beloved Sophie, the Shih Tzu, died back at the beginning of February. She was almost 15. She had a lovely life, and we had a wonderful time together. She was my faithful companion. She was with me by my side nearly every single day for the last 14 years. And I basically revolved my life around making sure that because I had decided to have a dog, that I was committing to a promise of giving her a full life where she wasn't just left at home or left for hours on end or not really able to come with me anywhere. So I lived my life so that she was with me constantly. Also, when I got Sophie 14 years ago, my life was different to what it is now. I had a long-term partner, so we shared the responsibility of having a dog. When we decided to have a dog at that time, that was a huge consideration, that we both would be able to be at home, and if I was away, he'd be able to stay with the dog. If he was away, I'd be able to stay with the dog. And we broke up 6 years ago. He left Edinburgh, I stayed, and then my life with Sophie became something else. It was just my responsibility. I had to be the one who was always making sure that she could come to a cafe, that they were dog friendly, or a restaurant, or if I was going on a trip, how would I plan taking her along? And as she got older, it became more difficult. So I'll be honest, I am missing Sophie a lot. The presence of having a dog in the house is a huge thing, even though she was only small. And when she got older, she was a lot more quiet. But just the presence of having a dog there, just tottering around or laying by your side, I do miss having a dog. That being said, I am definitely not going to be getting a dog anytime soon. One of the things that has made my grief for Sophie a little bit easier is the fact that my life is now completely free. I can go out of the house, go out all day long, see a friend spontaneously, and I don't have to think, oh, I need to get back because of Sophie. Or is Sophie getting bored sitting here? Is she getting tired with me if she came along, which she often did? And then I went on holiday to Mallorca with my sister and my niece. That was a very last minute decision about 2 weeks before they left. I wouldn't have been able to do that before because I wouldn't have been able to get the care to look after Sophie. So what I've realised is that even though I've lost my beloved companion, what has come with it is a new sense of freedom and a new way of life. And that is what I told myself in the last few years when I knew that Sophie was getting older and that she was eventually going to pass on to a new life. I always thought the way for me to deal with that grief will be to try and embrace a new lifestyle of being able to do exactly what I want when I want. And that is what I have tried to do. So even though I'm dealing with this sadness, I'm also seeing it as a gift from Sophie now, and I can hope she's smiling at me thinking, Papa, you're really enjoying life and getting on. And that is her little gift to me, is a bit of freedom. So it's not that I don't want to have a dog. I love dogs, but I don't think it would be the right decision for the dog if I had one, because I wouldn't be able to give them that full commitment for the next 14, 15 years. I wouldn't want to ever have a dog and it be sitting in the house on its own for long stretches of time, or if I had to travel somewhere for a few months to leave it with somebody else. So at this point in my life, as a single man living in a city, I will not be getting another dog. If in the next 5 years my life changes and I move to the countryside, or I meet somebody and they really want to have a pet and we decide that is going to be something that we can work out together, then I will. But for this stage of my life, I think it wouldn't be fair for the dog for me to have one. So no, I'm enjoying my freedom and the spontaneity of just being a single man who can really do whatever he wants. So what I loved about all of your questions is that they are so diverse. We have some serious ones, some ones that are about the future and planning, and then we have some silly ones, we have some comical ones. So this one is quite one of those questions that is a serious thought. It says, hello, you're self-employed. How do you contribute so you can obtain a pension for the future? So this is quite a serious life question. Now, to answer that simply, I have thought about my old age quite a lot because I'm planning to live till I'm at least 100 years old, and so I want to make sure that I am going to be okay. So about 5 years ago, I started contributing to a private pension. I also have a few little investments where I invest a few £100 every month into stocks and shares, and they're managed by like a wealth manager. So in terms of pension and that for the future, that is what I have got planned down already. I'm doing that every single month, so that should be fine. And then I also think that one day, very soon, I will probably buy my own property, and that property I will keep for till I'm like in my 60s, and then it will have gained value, most likely, as houses always do, and then maybe I'll want to downsize or buy something smaller, or get equity out of that house. So I think that those things are enough, and I also believe that I'll be somebody who works for the rest of my life, not because I'll need to necessarily, maybe I will, but I like doing something, being creative, and I just think that whatever stage of life that I'm at, I will always be making money somehow from my passions. Like, I never thought that I would be a YouTuber, and who knows what's coming in the future, what I'll do next, if there is anything else. But I always think that I'll be one of these people who is quite creative, always looking to strive ahead, and I think that I will always be making money until the day that I die. I think somebody who I really look up to, Martha Stewart, she's very wealthy, so she doesn't need to worry about it, but she likes to keep herself busy with work, and I think that is the kind of person that I am as well. And then on the other flip side of this, I was talking to my parents the other day about money and the future, and my dad said to me, what's the plan? And I kind of said to him in a very casual way, because it was a funny conversation, I'm just going to enjoy my life. I know people who worked incredibly hard all their life, not necessarily doing the biggest careers of their, not necessarily having huge careers. I know somebody who was a bus driver, and he saved every penny till the day that he died, and he had hundreds of thousands in his bank account when he died, and it ended up getting left to his family. So he worked really hard all of his life, saved for a pension for old age, and then he never got to enjoy his money. And I see that quite a lot, that there are people out there who build up these huge pots of money by working really hard, and then they're so afraid of spending it that they become old and they end up leaving it to relatives, who then just get to enjoy it. And in many occasions, these people just spend it so quickly because they didn't have to earn it. So in many ways, I'm also of the view that I don't know what's going to be happening in the future. I don't know how long I'm going to live. I mean, I could not be here in my 60s. Who knows? We just never know. And you also don't know what's going to happen for the good. It could be that something really wonderful happens in your life, and you're never going to have to worry about a pension or anything like that ever again. It's a huge, throwaway comment to make, but you just never know what is going to happen in life, is my point. So I try not to worry about it too much, because I've always been of the view as well that everything works out. I'm not a stupid person. I'm not frivolous or careless. So I think I will be fine, and I will always have everything sorted out with my ducks in a row. So yeah, I am planning for the future, but also I want to enjoy now. I'm a young person. I'm doing my dream job, and I like to enjoy my life. I like to go out and see my friends. I like to travel. I like to do good things, because I see so many people who wait till they're a lot older and the time has passed, and that perhaps they're ill or not able to travel, or they've saved all this money and their partner dies and now they're on their own. There's just so many things that can happen that I believe it's important to have the right balance of being young and enjoying your life to the fullest, but also being a little bit sensible and putting away for the future. Hi Nick, will Nathan and you film more of your series, A Dose of Dandy? I thoroughly enjoyed it. This was another one of those questions that I got asked quite a lot. So if you don't know, A Dose of Dandy is my debut podcast with my best friend Nathan Rollinson. That was released last September, and it did really, really well. We were so surprised by the reception of it. It charted number 34 in the UK. I think it got to number 14 in the US. It was very, very well received, and it turned out to be really great. So what we're doing with A Dose of Dandy, there will be a second series because it was successful. The only issue that we have, if we're being totally honest about it, is the cost of creating a podcast. So for season 1, we self-funded it, and we both contributed quite a big chunk of money to pay for the videographer, the producer, having the whole thing edited. It was a costly thing, but then we had to pay for PR, marketing, and publicity. So it was a costly thing to do. But when you're doing something new, you kind of have to take that risk, and it did pay off because it was successful. So now for season 2, we have a whole plan of what season 2 is going to be about. It's quite different to season 1. But we want to make sure that this time we can get some investment or something in place so that we don't have to put all of our money into it again, because otherwise there's really no point. You don't make any money from a podcast if you're constantly just ploughing all of your cash into it and you're not getting anything back. And with a podcast, it does take a few seasons or quite a few years to get it really running so that it does become something that makes money. So we're looking into how we're going to get the podcast funded, and then it will be on the road, but I think it's going to be pretty soon. So hopefully it will be before the autumn this year that season 2 comes out. And yeah, it's going to be a lot different to season 1. We're going to have some guests this time. And would also like to know what you would like us to discuss in the podcast. We are going to do a dedicated post about this soon, but as we're talking about it now, perhaps you would like to tell me in the comments what you would like us to discuss for season 2, or if there are any themes that you can think of that you would like us to discuss. So yeah, A Dose of Dandy will be coming back because it was a huge success and we really loved doing it, but we want to make sure that we're not just wasting time and money on doing something if it's not really going to be valuable. Hello Nicholas, if you didn't have a YouTube channel, what career would you be interested in? Oh, I love this question. I don't think I've ever had this one as well. So I have thought about this quite a lot. If I wasn't a YouTuber, what would I be doing? And throughout my life, I've kind of had different dreams. When I was about 18, I wanted to be a flight attendant, and it was something that I was so determined to do. I just thought, this idea of being very young, travelling around the world, getting to meet lots of people, and I applied for a job with an airline that doesn't exist anymore called Monarch Airlines, and I got an interview and I got offered a job. And at the time, I'd just met my very first boyfriend. We'd been together for about 4 months, and he kind of sat me down and said to me, I'm really nervous about you doing this job. You'll be travelling around. We're not going to get to see each other. There's going to be lots of attention from other men. And so I decided not to pursue my dream of becoming a flight attendant. And I look back at that and I think, was I crazy, or did it turn out to be for the best? And because I've always tried to look on the bright side of life, I think that perhaps if I'd had took that job, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you on YouTube. It's the sliding door effect, isn't it, where a little moment of life can just change the whole course. Perhaps if I'd done that, really fell in love with it, I could have met another man in the future on a flight, and my life would have took a different path. So I always believe that everything happens for a reason. I didn't end up taking that job, and now I'm sitting here in Edinburgh, which is wild, talking to all of you on this channel. So yeah, that was one of the jobs that I wanted to do. And now I always think, if I could restart my life, what would I do? And I always think back to being a child. And when I was a child, I always wanted to do dancing. So I wanted to be a ballet dancer, but I was too scared to voice that aloud because I thought it was something that girls did. So I always think, in a dream world, I could go back to being a little boy and telling my parents that I want to do ballet, and then they would send me to lessons and I would become a world famous ballerina. That would be something that would be quite amazing. So yeah, when I think about what I wouldn't do if I was doing YouTube, I don't really think of it in a realistic sense, in a real world sense of like a job that I would do instead. There's not many things that I could think of doing that I would actually love as much as I love doing this. I always think of it in a fantasy way, like what would be my dream? And I would love to be a ballerina or an opera singer. Just whenever I go to see the ballet or the opera and I watch these people perform, I'm just so in awe of their amazing talent. Now everybody is completely captivated. So yeah, I would love to be a ballerina, I think. That'd be so beautiful. Hello, are you still in touch with your friends from school or the place you grew up in? How do you feel about living in places where you don't have a long history or a connection with? That is a brilliant question, and I've never ever had that one. So yes, I am still in touch with my friends from school. When I was at school, I had a group of friends, 8 girls, Amy, Laura, Jessica, Claire, Zoe, Samantha, Katie, oh my god, I can't miss one out, and Alex. And those girls are still my great friends now. I haven't seen them for like a year, some of them even longer than that, but we keep in touch. And they are the sort of friends that if we met tomorrow for lunch or dinner, we would not be able to stop talking for the whole night. We would be, even though time has passed, we've all moved on in different directions. And they are there will always be my very, very close friends who I love for the rest of my life because we had a very strong bond. I was a gay young boy at school who was very shy and felt very like I stuck out like a sore thumb, and those girls kind of scooped me up and made me feel safe. They made me feel like I was important. They listened to me. They just made me feel like I could be 100% myself, and I didn't feel that with anybody or anywhere else in the world. So for that reason, I will love them forever, and we will always have a very special bond. And you know, life is busy. We all have our own thing to do. Most of them have got kids and careers. So life moves on, you get busy, but we'll always have that bond. And whenever we meet, there's always that, it's like we were just at school yesterday. And what I love about my friends as well is that they don't see me as, this YouTuber. They just make me feel completely down to earth again and normal, and they don't treat me any differently. And so when I go to see them, it's just like being the boy that I was back then at school. So it's a lovely, lovely thing, and I'm so lucky to have those girls who were just my saviour when I was growing up. And in terms of how do you feel about living in places where you don't have a long history or connection with, I've always loved that. I think that to me is much more appealing than being in a place where maybe you grew up and that's all that you knew. When I was growing up, I didn't really ever love the place that we lived. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed of it, but it was never an inspiring place. There was nothing beautiful there. It was a very urban town with lots of, not many beautiful things, let's say. So I never really cared for that place, even though I'm grateful for growing up there and for all the lessons that I learned. So being in a new place where I don't really know anybody and I have no connection, for me, it's an opportunity to make that connection and find new things, meet new people, learn about the history, learn about the place. And you find that wherever you live, I've lived in quite a lot of places, this place will turn you into something new and create a different side of you that you didn't know existed. It brings out something special, so you can look at each place that you've lived and think, wow, that place really taught me about this, and that place I met all of these people and it helped me become this person. So yeah, for me, I much prefer the excitement of moving on, moving to a new place and finding what that's going to bring to my life, which is why I'm always thinking about moving. Do you have any regrets about any past relationships? If you could go back in time, would you do anything differently in that regard? Ooh, that is a very personal question, but a great one. And I just said a few questions ago that I believe that everything happens for a reason. I didn't take the cabin crew job and I'm sitting here now. So I don't really like to think about if I would change anything or I don't really like to think about regrets. But there is one relationship that I had when I was 20 years old. So that guy I just told you about who convinced me not to take the cabin crew job, we broke up. Actually, he broke up with me and I was totally heartbroken. I was 19, just turning 20, and I loved him. He was my first love and I loved him so much. And I kind of quickly got into a rebound relationship with somebody who I was working with, and it happened very quickly. I was very young, and this guy, he got a job in Bristol. We were living in the West Midlands at the time, so Bristol is about 90 minutes in the car away from where we lived, and he got a new job there. And we'd been together for about 3 months, and he said to me, "I'm moving there, do you want to come with me?" And because I was heartbroken, I shouldn't really have been in this relationship, this new relationship. It was definitely a rebound of having somebody there to try and take my mind off this other person. And I just thought, I'm 19, almost 20, I'm going to move with this guy. I'm going to see what happens. And actually, nothing terrible happened, but it was just, I feel guilty that I moved in with this person and they were in love with me, I wasn't in love with them, and I feel guilty about hurting their heart. So if I have any regrets, it's that I should have been more careful with that person's feelings when I was 20. I should have thought, perhaps it's not the best idea to move with somebody who you don't love, that you're still, you're still in love with your ex and you're still hurting. But I took his interest in me and his like for me in kind of a selfish way, and used it to comfort myself when really it wasn't the best thing to do. So I always regret that. So yeah, I'm sorry about that, and I would definitely not do that again. But maybe that was something that led his life to be something different. And again, maybe it's something that was supposed to happen for us both. But I feel guilty about hurting him. We ended up living there together for a year. It was very up and down. The first time that I'd lived away from my family, and I was very lonely. I didn't have any friends. I was struggling to meet people. And I just felt very far away from everything, and it was not a very good time of my life, and I was heartbroken from my previous relationships. So it was a rough year, but after that my life kind of really just took off and everything started to go well. So yeah, that is my regret, and I would definitely think about that again. If you're watching, I'm very sorry. I hope you're okay. Having gone through your recent experience, what are you looking for in your next relationship? Okay, another great question. So, if you missed a previous video, I did share that I had a very bad experience with a guy where we were dating for a little while, and then I got a phone call very early in the morning, 4 a.m, from his number, but when I picked it up, it was somebody else, and he told me that this was his boyfriend and that he'd been cheating on him and sleeping with other people, and then this guy blocked me everywhere, and I never heard from him ever again. So that was my last relationship that I had. And so what am I looking for in my next relationship? Probably somebody who's not like that, not a narcissist. That's number one. Definitely not another narcissist, please. I'm done with narcissists. In my next relationship, I think I'm taking it very, very slow. I'm not really on the hunt for a boyfriend at the moment. What I am trying to do is just enjoy my life as much as possible, and I am. I'm really happy again. And what I'm going to do is just be of the view that I'm not going to try too hard. I'm not going to bother with dating apps. I'm not going to look excessively for a boyfriend or panic about it. I'm just going to enjoy my life, and if somebody comes along who's very nice, then that's great. But what I am going to look for in my next relationship is to make sure that I don't make the same mistakes again in terms of getting sucked in by people who are perhaps very quickly laying on the affection and love and making me feel drawn into them very quickly. So I'll be looking for somebody who's a little bit more relaxed in that regard. Not, oh, I'm in love with you, it's been the third date, and oh, I can't wait to see you, and I need to see you every day, and we're going to do this and make plans. I'm going to avoid those types of people, because I've learned that even though it feels wonderful to be love-bombed, it actually always turns out to be awful. So yeah, I'm going to take it slow in terms of looking for a next relationship. I want something that's going to be a slow burn, somebody who's mature, elegant, kind, funny, somebody who I feel when I meet them in my gut that this is a good person, because I always know when they're not, and I try to convince myself otherwise, but I always know. So I'll be looking for somebody kind, gentle, and great, and that's all I can say, to be honest, because I think I need to just stay away for a while. Okay. What is your guilty pleasure? You enjoy elegance and are always so polished and put together. That's truly who you are. But I have a feeling you have a gritty side too. For example, I know you don't watch a lot of TV, but can you get into the drama of something like Love is Blind or a shocking true crime podcast? So, one of the things that I always find that when I meet people who know me from YouTube, for example, the members club that I go to, the Glen Eagles Townhouse, I often meet people in there and they start talking to me, and then it comes to be that they've known me from YouTube or seen me on Instagram, and then when we get to know each other they tell me, oh, I really didn't expect you to be like this in real life. I thought you'd be more like what you are on YouTube. And it's not that I'm hugely different here, but obviously this is not real life. This is half an hour every week where I come on camera and I share bits of my life, whether it's travel or in the house or cooking. And what I share is genuine. It's my life as it's happening. But there are also the other 6 days of the week where I'm living my life without filming and without being on display. So it's going to be different. And what I've also managed to do, I think quite well, is give away a lot about my life, but there's also so much that people don't know. Like when I've had partners, nobody's ever known their name, they've never seen them, they've never known what they do for a living. People don't really know about my parents or my sister or her husband or my brother. There's lots and lots of things that are not known about my life. So there's a great balance of sharing a lot and keeping connected, but also lots of stuff that people don't know. So yes, I do have a gritty side actually. I am somebody who, I don't really watch TV, that is true. I tell you all the time that I don't have a TV. I try sometimes to open my laptop. Last night I got home from my holiday and I was I unpacked and did things, and then I was a little bit bored. I took a bath and I thought maybe I'll try to watch something on the laptop. So I opened up my laptop and I looked through my Netflix, a documentary or something, and I struggled to focus and concentrate on watching anything actually. I'd much rather read a book or call a friend, or chat to someone, or just do something useful. So I'm never really ever watching TV. The gritty side of me, I guess, is the young guy who likes to party, who likes to go out with his friends for drinks, sometimes drinks a little bit too much and has a good time on the dance floor. If you ever see me in a club or a bar, I'm always on the dance floor. I can stay out till 4 a.m. dancing. I like to enjoy my life. I like to have fun being young, and that is something that I always have enjoyed doing all my life. I've always enjoyed partying, going out, having fun, and I think that is the side that nobody will ever see on YouTube because it's just a different environment. So yeah, I do enjoy elegance, and I do think that the person that you see here is the person that exists out in the world. If you saw me in Edinburgh today, I'd be dressed this way. I wouldn't be running around screaming or anything. I'd still be me, but there's definitely a side that I just don't show on YouTube because it's not interesting or appropriate or not the right setting. Oh yeah, that's a great question. Don't you plan to spend more time with your mum and dad and your siblings? Your face and eyes were shining when you arrived home in your last video. While we're young, we don't think about it. Actually, nobody will love us more than our parents. Yeah, that's a great one. So in my last video, I arrived home because I was going on holiday with my sister, and yeah, I guess my face was shining. I was happy to be back. This is something that I have struggled with various points in my life. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18, moved in with my first boyfriend, and then I moved to Bristol with that next guy, moved back in with my parents for about 2 months, and then I met somebody else and we moved, and I haven't lived at my parents' house since I was about 20. And I've never moved back into my hometown. I've always lived far away, and I've often thought, am I missing out on family life? But I wouldn't be being true to myself if I lived there. Whenever I go back, it's very apparent after a few days that this is not the life that I'm supposed to be living. Even though it's lovely to be around my parents, my family, my young nieces and nephews, I wouldn't be living the life that I want to live if I was living there. They live in the countryside. Everybody who lives in that area, they're mostly families, young families with children, or it's old retired people. A life there would not happen for me. I wouldn't have groups of friends like I do in Edinburgh who are younger, who are single, who don't have kids, I can call somebody on a Wednesday evening and we can go for a drink, or they can come to my house for a dinner. It would be a much different life where I'd be on my own and I wouldn't have the social life that I have now, and I wouldn't have the opportunities that I have. So yes, I do love my family, and I understand that nobody will love me more than my own family, my own parents, and I enjoy spending that time with them and absorbing that love and giving it back. But my life is mine, and I have to do what I have to do to achieve the things that I want. My parents have had their life, they still have it, but they chose their path. Same with my sister and my brother, they've chosen what they want for their life. And that is beautiful for them, but that is not the life that I want to live. I enjoy going to visit, but I want to do something else with my life, so I have to be true to me, and I have to just remember that I can visit them anytime, they can visit me. We see each other actually quite a lot, but living there and being around them constantly would not be the life that I want to live, because the opportunities that I need and the things that I want to achieve wouldn't be available to me there. So it's a sacrifice, definitely a sacrifice, but I think I'm very good at visiting, of keeping in touch, very close to all of my family, very tight. And so I speak to my mum every day, sometimes twice. So I keep my relationships going with my family, but I also manage to live my life. We only get one. And I know so many people who restrict themselves because of family, and maybe that's fine, maybe that's what they want, but your life is yours and you need to live it how you want to live it. That's my view. Hello Nicholas, are you completely happy with your Invisalign results? How long did you have to wear them for the results that you have? And can we have an update including advice like did you have bonding afterwards? So I started Invisalign in 2023. Initially it was supposed to take 20 weeks, and then when it got to about week 15 my dentist said they're not moving as quickly, there's some more refinements, so it ended up being about 18 months that I wore Invisalign, which was very frustrating at the time. Invisalign is quite an intrusive thing. You have to wear retainers basically 24 hours a day. You take them out to eat, otherwise they have to be in. So it's a constant thing in your mouth, and every time you want to take them out, you want to go to a restaurant, you have to take them out. So it can be quite intrusive, and people say, well, braces, they don't look appealing. I had braces when I was 15, and if I'm totally honest about Invisalign, I would probably have preferred just to have a brace so that I didn't have to worry about taking them in and out. But to be honest, you get used to it quickly, and the results are amazing. You wear these retainers every week, and then you swap them over for a new one, and your teeth gradually move. It's a very clever thing. So I'm completely happy with the result. It took about 18 months of Invisalign, and then, so I had Invisalign, and then I had composite bonding on my top 4 teeth. So composite bonding is a very thin, kind of like shellac, that they put on top of your tooth, and then they shape it into the teeth that you see now. The great thing about composite bonding is that you do not lose any of the tooth, your original teeth. If you know about veneers, they shave the tooth down to like a stump, and then they put the veneer on top, so that when you take the veneers off, you'll have the stumps. Composite bonding does not ruin your original tooth in any way, so my teeth are still there underneath, and you get a great result. The only thing is with composite bonding is that it doesn't last as long. It lasts between 5 to 10 years. If you take really great care of them, you'll probably get 10 years out of your composite bonding. I absolutely religiously take care of my teeth. I floss twice a day. I go for cleaning at my dentist every 4 months, and then I also have a composite bonding review with my dentist every 3 months, where she makes sure everything's okay and she polishes them to make them look white again. So I am very fastidious about taking care of my teeth, because for so many years I really didn't like my smile, and I had to pay for my teeth as well, so it wasn't cheap. So I just think I've invested this time and money into having my dream smile, so I want to make sure that it lasts for as long as possible. So yeah, I would highly recommend, if you are looking for Invisalign, it is a really great thing. Be aware that it can take longer than planned, but definitely worth it for your dream smile, for sure. Hi Nicholas, with so much noise and distraction in the world, what keeps you anchored in the moment and or provides moments of peace? This is a great question because there is a lot of noise and distraction in the world. And I think what I have managed to do in my life very well is create my own world so that whatever is going on outside, I can walk into my door and this is the only world that exists for me. And sometimes people have said that I'm quite selfish for doing that, but I don't think I am. I think there are only so many things that you can control in the world and have an impact on. You should do those things. Try and make life better for other people as much as you can. Give as much as you can. Do your best as much as you can for other people. Be a good person out in the world. Try to make changes in things that you're passionate about. Do all of those things, but still the impact that we can have is so small because the people running this world, they are controlling it. So for me, I just mentioned earlier that I don't have a TV. I haven't had a TV for 6 years. I have not watched the news for 6 years. I haven't listened to the radio for 6 years. I haven't bought a newspaper for 6 years. I am quite oblivious to what is going on in this world in a very in-depth way. My ex-boyfriend, who I was with for 10 years, he was a news addict. He loved politics. It was one of his biggest passions. And I kind of got into that myself. And when we broke up, I just realised I don't really want to know what's going on because so much of it is out of my control. And we are only here on this planet once, we think. So I want to live my life and try and have a most peaceful life as possible because we all deserve that. I know sometimes you may think, oh well, everybody's suffering and we don't deserve peace. You do. You deserve a peaceful life. Yes, you can be concerned about what's going on and want to fix things and want good for everybody, but you also deserve to live a peaceful life. So how do I keep myself anchored and provide moments of peace? I try to not look at the news, not look at everything that's going on, and I just try to take joy from the very small moments in life, and I really mean that. I think sometimes people think that I say these things just for content, but I really do live the life that I talk about. In the morning, I will make myself a really beautiful coffee with my Sage coffee machine. I'll make it in a beautiful mug. That is a moment that I cherish every single day and love and really, really enjoy. I take a walk to my members club to go to the gym or do a Pilates class. When I'm walking, whatever the weather's doing that day, I try to embrace and say, wow, I'm walking. I can hear the birds, the sun is out today. I can hear the lawnmower going. A little dog is walking along the street. I get into my members club, I see people I know, we have a lovely conversation. I move my body, I feel youthful. I feel able. I try to look at every single moment of my day and see it as something beautiful. And if you can do that, you don't need to have tons of money, you don't need to have lots of wealth and lots of stuff. If you can enjoy a lovely cup of coffee, enjoy a small moment, you're really going to be at peace. And also knowing that whatever's going on in life will pass and will get better. Just the other month I was going through grief, loss, heartache, and there were times when I was thinking, am I ever going to feel happiness again, and will I ever enjoy my life again? And when you go through these awful things in life, it's a lesson that you'll get through them, and you're stronger after you've been through them. And unless you've been through those things, you're never going to know. I was thinking, why is this happening? And now I understand that it's because my life was quite plain sailing. And I needed to know a little bit of heartache and a little bit of grief to see how strong I am. So real peace comes from enjoying your life in every moment possible, not expecting life to be happy and perfect all of the time, knowing that clouds will come, storms will come, but the sun will shine through again and you'll be fine. And also just trying to live your life as best as you can and not feel guilty about living a good life when there is so much suffering. The suffering isn't your fault. It's none of our fault. It's the people who run this world, the people who decide to start wars, the people who can't just give us a world of peace. We're living in what should be the best time ever. We're so evolved, and we should be so highly intelligent that we don't have to keep repeating the same mistakes again and again, but somehow we still end up coming back to all this fighting. Our world should be so peaceful now. We could provide a beautiful life for most of the world with all the resources we have, but we're not. So what can we do about it? There's nothing. You just have to be a good person, do as much as you can to be a good person in the world. Other than that, there's nothing else that you can do. So be at peace, enjoy your life, really. My question, how did you find your style? Could you give some advice on how to look elegant? Yes, I can. So I did a post on my Substack a few weeks ago, which is my kind of online blog, and it was about how my style has changed throughout the years depending on what I'm going through in my life. When I was very young and I met my long-term boyfriend, I went through this period of being overly formal. We loved clothes. We liked elegant things, and I used to wear shirts, ties, sport jackets. I would dress like that every day. And I said that in this blog that I went to the airport once to travel home to see my parents, and somebody thought that I was going to a wedding because I was dressed so elegantly. And then how when I was a little bit lost about 4 years ago here in Edinburgh, my style was sloppy, and I can look back at some YouTube videos and I think, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed that I was wearing that, and I put on a lot of weight. And then I feel in the last 2 years I've returned to the style that is truly who I am. So I would say, how do you find your style is live your life and think about what speaks to you. I've always loved elegance. I've never been one who loves fashion or trends. It's never interested me, actually. I've never been a person who's chasing the next thing. I've always liked my own style, and I've always liked a sense of elegance. So clean lines, no huge logos, muted colours, a lot of monochromatic looks. That is just something that I like. You need to find what you like, what speaks to you. If it is high fashion, if it is a very casual look, if it is more elegant, find what you like. Look on Pinterest, look at people on Instagram who have this aesthetic that you like, and find out how that will fit into your life. I can see people online who look amazing and I love their style, but it won't necessarily work for me. So it's all about looking at your body, your height, and how your body displays clothes. You will find, by just looking at pictures of yourself, what works and what doesn't. You'll be able to see instinctively. But in terms of looking elegant, I always think that timeless is best. That's what I've always tried to do. Try to think about buying things that if I looked back at a photo from 20 years ago, would I still like what I'm wearing? And if you're wearing a simple white t-shirt, some nice jeans, a cardigan, it's not going to be like, wow, that's so wild out there. I look at photos of my parents in the 80s and 90s, and some of their choices were wild. If they'd just stuck to this kind of very simple, clean lines, probably wouldn't have thought that, but that's very fun. It's fun to look back at these things. So you also have fun with your style, do what feels great for you, but if you want elegance, I would say keep it simple, clean lines, muted tones, whatever you feel great in. Hi Nicholas, I want to ask, what did you do before posting content? Do you see yourself posting content for several more years, or do you desire to do something else at some point? Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what I've shared about my life in terms of all the jobs that I had. So when I was 16, I was at school, and when you turn 16 in the UK, you're allowed to work. So my parents made it very clear that if I wanted to have an expensive haircut or buy expensive clothes, that now because I was 16, I would have to pay for it myself. And I think that was the best thing that they could have said. Up until that point, my parents were, honestly, everything they earned was for me, my brother and my sister. They took us on holidays, they bought us beautiful clothes, we went out to restaurants, and they didn't have a lot of money. They had to work really, really hard. My mum had 4 jobs at one point, doing cleaning and laundry service and all these things and caring, but they made money and they treated us very well. But it was when we got to 16, right, come on now, you need to start earning your own money. And at the time I thought, oh gosh, this is not great, but it instills a work ethic and it makes you feel a purpose. And I remember the first time that I got my first paycheck from my job. I think I was doing 12 hours a week, yeah. And I got paid something like £250 at the end of the month, and it was the most exciting feeling when I got my first paycheck and I could go and spend money. So yeah, when I was 16, after school, I used to finish school at 3 and then I'd get the bus to my job, which started at 4, and I worked 4 till 8 Monday to Friday. And that was at a clothes store called Next. It's a very famous one, still exists now. And I really enjoyed that job. I loved meeting everybody else who worked there. I loved chatting with the customers who came in. I loved working with the clothes and seeing what was coming in, and I loved keeping the store tidy and clean and having a sense of pride at the end of the day when the store closed and it looked all beautiful again. I really enjoyed that job. And when I got to 18 and I met that first boyfriend, I applied for the job as a cabin crew and I got that job, didn't take it. And so I was going to go to university, and then I decided to take a gap year, and I worked, so I got a full-time job at that store Next. So I went from doing like 12 hours a week to 37 hours a week. And I loved it. It was a weird time. It was just the time of the financial crash in 2008. So lots of people had lost their jobs. And at Next, they weren't firing people, but they were not promoting anybody. So what they would do is, I was employed full-time and I'd basically run the menswear section, but I didn't have the title of a manager. I was just getting paid as a full-time member of staff. And I loved it. I used to really take pride in my work, looking after all the clothes, merchandising, customer service, which I really loved. I just loved being in that environment. And at the time I thought, I'm going to work my way up in this career. I want to have my own store. And I probably could have done, I think I could have done that really well. And then when I moved to Bristol with the Next guy, I transferred my job to the Bristol store, and I really just hated it because at the store that I was working at previously, the hours were 9 till 6 every day. When I moved to this new store in Bristol, it opened at 9 but didn't close till 11 p.m. and so it was shift work, and a lot of my shifts were 1 p.m. till 11, and I absolutely hated it. And it was also because it was a much bigger store. In my other store it was small. I got to do lots of interesting things. In this store they had much more staff, so my role was very limited to serving on the tills, tidying the clothes, and I didn't get to do all of the interesting things like merchandising, creating beautiful displays, and I didn't really get to do any of that, so it just killed the interest that I had in that job. So then I decided that I wanted to get a job in an office, because at this job at Next I was working very unsociable hours. Every weekend I would get Sunday and Thursday off, which is not great. Thursday is a nothing day. What can you do? I was finding I was just being able to do my laundry, do my life admin, and then on a Sunday you get that day and then the next day you're back at work. So it just felt really dreadful. So I thought, if I get a job in an office, I'll be able to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and it just seemed like a dream. I didn't have any experience working in an office. I didn't have any office experience. I went to see a recruitment consultant and I told them I want to get an office job. This is my skill. They came back about a week later and they said, we've got you an interview for this office-based job. There are going to be it's a recruitment open day, so there are going to be about 50 people attending this workshop. It's very unlikely that you'll get the job, but it's a good experience. And I read about this job. It was for a bathroom company doing administration. So it was a company that sold taps and sinks and things like that. And then I would be answering the phone, typing orders onto the system, dealing with queries from customers. It was Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, every weekend off. I was living in Bristol, so I never got to see my family, and I thought I'll be able to go home every weekend. I'll have all the weekends free, and the money was much better than what I was getting at Next. So I thought, this is a dream. So I just thought, I have to get this job. So when I turned up at that recruitment day, that was what was in my mind. I need to beat all of these people and get this job. And I did. I got the job. Out of all the people that were there were 3 positions available, and I got one of them. And everybody else there had worked in an office before. They had office experience. I didn't have any. But they must have just seen that I was desperate for this job and that I was going to do a great job. And so that came through, and I got the job. And I have to tell you, it was the worst job ever. It was so boring. And I realised that after about a week. Being in an office, sitting at a desk, typing in orders, taking phone calls, answering the same question again and again and again, was for me just mind-numbingly boring. I missed the fast pace of retail, of something new every day, of dealing with customers, of being able to walk around, and it was just not for me. But I did enjoy getting the weekends off, and I used to travel home every weekend, see family, see friends, so I liked that, but it wasn't for me. And then when I broke up with my boyfriend and moved back home for a while, I managed to get another office job doing human resources, and also didn't like that. It wasn't for me. And then I don't want to keep making this a very long story because it's going to go on for too long, but then I met my next boyfriend. He had his own business and he worked in Dubai. And so he invited me to spend a week in Dubai with him, and I did. And after the first week, he said, I need to stay. Would you like to stay for one more week until I get this work finished? So I said, oh, that's impossible. My boss will kill me. I've only booked a week off work. And he said, oh, I'd really like you to stay. So I called my boss, and she was furious. And she said, you can stay one more week, but when you come back to work, we really need to have a conversation about this. This is not good. And then after the second week was up, my partner said to me, look, I probably need to stay doing this work for 6 months. You really hate that job. You want to do something else. Why don't you quit the job, stay here, and we can figure out what you're going to do next. So I called my parents and I spoke to my mum and I told her, and she was like, if you quit this job, I'll never speak to you ever again. And then my dad came on the phone and he said, Nick, you're 21. This is an amazing opportunity. You'll get a job anywhere. You always do. You're very capable. You won't get this chance again to live in Dubai. You've just met somebody who you fall in love with. If you don't take the job, then I will never speak to you again. So I decided to quit. Sorry, if you don't stay and you don't quit the job, I'll never speak to you again. So I decided to quit my job. And I ended up living in Dubai for a few years with my ex-boyfriend, and that's how I fell into doing what I do now. I started posting on social media, sharing our life. We bought a house and we renovated it, and we travelled, and I started building an Instagram following, and then in the pandemic I started my YouTube channel, and we are here. So going back to one of the first questions where I talked about the timing of your life and taking opportunities or not taking opportunities that you might regret, everything kind of happens for a reason, I believe. So I have reached the end of the questions that I got from YouTube, so now I'm going to get my phone and we will go through some of the ones that I got on Instagram. I'm going to answer these ones a lot more quickly. Are you leaving Edinburgh soon? Are you sure you really in your heart wish to leave? Actually, I've decided to not rush into this decision about leaving Edinburgh. I do have a wonderful life here, and actually when I posted the video a few weeks ago talking about this question, I got thousands of comments, and you all helped me to actually see that my life here is wonderful, and perhaps I need to really think about what I'm doing before I make a drastic decision. And especially when you've gone through loss, heartbreak, it's not the time to be making huge life decisions. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to take this year very slow. Now that Sophie is not here, I can travel very freely. I don't have to plan anything too much. So I'm going to take this year, I'm going to go to Amsterdam a few times, I'm going to go to Paris, I'm going to visit the US. I'm dying to come to the US. I know there are so many of you who watch in the US, and I need to come and see you all. So I'm going to go to the US, and I'm going to just take it slow and see what happens in my life. And I'm sure something wonderful is going to happen. So my plan is to stay in Edinburgh, not rush into this decision, and just travel a lot and see where things go. How does it feel to be closer to 40 years old than 30 years old? Ah! That's how it feels. So yeah, I can't believe that I'm 36. It sounds so old, even though I know it's still young. And I won't lie, I am somebody who is quite afraid of aging. I love being young, I love being youthful, I love what you can do when you're young, and I look at people who are getting older in my life, my grandparents, my parents, and it scares me that their lives are coming to an end. You know, it's just a fact, and I get scared about time passing by, how quickly it goes, how quickly life goes. So yeah, I will say that it's scary getting closer to 40. I don't want to get older, but it is a privilege afforded to few, and life will just work out the way it always does, and I will embrace everything that happens in my life, and it's going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. It's fine. One of the questions that I got a lot on Instagram, there's a few of these, is about my weight loss and my diet. So I'm just going to answer that one now. So I decided that I wasn't happy with my weight about 2 years ago. From the age of about 18 to 30, I was the same weight. I was 57 kilos all those years. I didn't go up or down. And then when I got to age 30 and the pandemic happened, I made a few friends, and we didn't really have anything else to do but drink and eat during the pandemic, and I gained quite a lot of weight, probably about 20 pounds, I would say, and I just wasn't very happy with myself. I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel like every time I got dressed, I was trying to hide things. I was trying to hide parts of myself, and I was always fussing about, oh, I can see this, and oh, this is too tight, and I was constantly holding my stomach to hide things. And then on videos, I'd watch them back when I was editing them, and I just felt like I didn't look like me. So even though I wasn't too overweight, I wasn't what I wanted to be. So about 2 years ago, I decided that, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to go back to the life that I had before. And I always knew what I needed to do to be that weight again, because I'd done it for so long. Just live a lifestyle. But it has to be up here in your mind. Your mind has to be in the place to be ready, where it says, okay, I'm ready, I know what I need to do, but I'm now going to be able to stick with it. And I don't know what happened, but it just clicked for me again, that I thought, okay, I am not happy, it's getting worse, I'm putting on more weight, enough is enough, I want to feel good again. So I decided just to start. I think I started in September 2024, and what I did was I started going to the gym every day. Started off doing just cardio, so that was a big thing. And then I completely went back to the diet that I had before, which is the diet that I still have maintained to this day. And a lot of people ask me, what do you eat? We want to know exactly what you eat every day. I'm not going to say this is the way that everybody should eat, because it might be controversial, or it might not be the way that it works for everybody else, but this is what works for me. So I eat pretty much the same thing every single day, and I keep it simple. It seems quite sad, but I don't really see food as something that is a huge pleasure for my life anymore. It's not a hobby for me. I know that food for many people is a passion, something that they love, something that they really cherish the most. I don't see food as that anymore. I just see it as something that I do to nourish my body. So I stopped seeing food as a pleasure, and that's the way I used to live before, when I managed to keep myself 57 kilos for all those years. So in the morning I will have a coffee and I will have a banana, and then I will go to the gym and I will either do Pilates or I will do strength training. And every day after I've done Pilates or I've done strength training, I do a treadmill walk. So I'll set the treadmill to 18, so it's very steep, like walking up a hill, and I'll set the speed to 4.5 and I will walk for 30 minutes. You will feel that your heart is beating quite quickly, you will sweat, but it's not something that's totally exhausting like a run or a jog. So I do that. And then I will come home, I'll have a shower at the gym, I'll have a coffee at the gym again, and then I will come home, I will start doing my work at my desk, either editing, answering emails, or filming. And then when it gets to about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I will have my lunch, and that will either be a soup with a piece of wholemeal bread, or it will be a salad. And then I will have my evening meal at about 6 in the evening, and it is always the same thing. It is steamed sweet potato, a piece of protein like steak, chicken or fish, and then I'll either have a vegetable like broccoli or I will make a salad. And then I will have a tea, maybe a little cookie or a piece of dark chocolate, and that is me for the day. And it's probably about 1500 calories a day. It is quite strict. I will have a glass of wine. I don't really think about alcohol in terms of calories because it doesn't seem to affect my weight. But it is very simple. I stick to that routine. If I'm traveling, I travel a lot with Nathan, and that can be a time where you think, oh, I could really just not stick to it, but I always do. I always keep to my banana, my coffee, I have my lunch, and then in the evening, whatever is on the menu, I will ask them to adapt it. So I'll ask, if there's a steak and it comes with potatoes and a sauce and garlic bread, I will just say, can you make me the steak? And I'll have a salad with it and some sweet potato. And everywhere I've been, they've managed to do that. Occasionally, if we go to a lovely restaurant or it's a special occasion, I will eat whatever's on the menu. When I was on holiday with my sister, I had a few times where, I had some ice cream or a pudding. At the airport, there was nothing else to eat except a Burger King, so I had a Burger King, but that is a very rare thing for me to do because I just see myself as, I like the way that I look now. It doesn't seem like it's a sacrifice. I would much rather not have the stress of having to worry about, not feeling great about myself like I did for all those years, and I keep it simple. So yeah, it's not the life that is for everybody, and I would certainly never tell people to live the way that I live. I'm just being very honest about the way that I live my life because this is just what works for me. Another question that I got quite a lot is about friendships. And one of the questions was, how do you make new friends when you move to a new place? And then somebody else has said, what is your advice for growing your social circle, building your village? So when I moved to Edinburgh in 2020, I moved here with my ex-boyfriend and I didn't know one person here. I remember we were sitting in it was New Year's Eve. We managed to get a spot in a bar and it was just me and him. And I remember looking around at all these tables of young friends enjoying themselves and I felt really lonely. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, am I ever going to have friends here? And so I am the kind of person who is very proactive about, if I want something in my life or I want to create a certain way of life, I will really work at it and get it done. So having friends was something that I really wanted. When I went for many, many years when I lived in the Cotswolds of not knowing anybody, of not having any friends, and there were times when, honestly, I talked about this with my sister the other day, I would be in my house, a beautiful house in the Cotswolds, in a village, beautiful village, and on a Friday evening at 25 years old, I would be in the kitchen with my earphones in, with a glass of wine, having a disco by myself, enjoying myself, but also feeling quite sad that I didn't know anybody and didn't have any friends. And the life that I have now in Edinburgh, that was a dream back then for me. So sometimes you also have to think about how life can, what you have now is actually very special and you need to be grateful for it. And that's why I always am very appreciative of my life now, because younger me would have loved this life. They would be so happy now. So yeah, I wanted to have friends. And I think if you want to have friends, you have to be very open. You have to be brave. You have to... Approaching people is one of the most difficult things. I remember when I first joined my members club and there were people in the gym and I'd go to classes and I'd feel so nervous. You have to kind of shed that. Being vulnerable is a lovely, lovely thing. Use it to your advantage, but say hello to that person who's in the class. Ask them questions about their life. What you'll find is that people are very kind. They want to talk to you. They also probably want new friends. So, number one, speak to people in situations like that, at the gym, in your local coffee shop. Maybe you're seeing the same person again and again. Say hello to them. Be curious about their life. And don't see it as strange if somebody starts talking to you. That's something that's happened to me quite a lot. I've met a few friends by people approaching me. One of my best friends, she approached me in a bar because her mother watches this YouTube channel. And she was like, oh, hello, my mother's a huge fan of your YouTube channel. Would we be able to get a picture? I can send it to her. And I said yes. And then we began to talk, and we've been best friends for 4 years. So take these chances when people speak to you. They may not be people who you necessarily thought you'd be friends with. Like, I didn't think that I would be friends with somebody's daughter who watches my channel. But I opened myself to that chance, and I've made a wonderful friend. I'm friends with this woman's mother now. I visit her house. I've been to her house twice. I've stayed over for a week or so. She comes here to my house in Edinburgh. We go and have dinners together. They're a lovely family, and I would never have met them if this girl hadn't approached me in the bar. So what I also try to do with my friendships is put a lot of effort into them. So I try not for them to be surface level friendships. I could call 1,000 people in Edinburgh tonight and invite them out for a drink, and it would be people who perhaps I don't really know that well, but they just want to be with somebody. The friendships that I've cultivated here are people who I've really got to know well. I'm really invested in their well-being, in their life, in what their passions are, what they want to do, what they want to achieve. And because of that, they're deep, meaningful friendships. Those are the kinds of friends that I want to have. And I have quite a lot of friends, and quite a few of them are that. But I know so many more people over the last 6 years who I've met, and we don't have that type of friendship. I'm only interested in those deep friendships because the joy of life is meeting people and seeing what makes other people tick. So I'm very interested in getting to know people. So I would say if you can be the type of person who wants to find out about people and really be interested in them, not just yourself, you're going to meet people who are really wonderful and who can be a big key part of the story of your life. I think we should wrap up this Q&A. It is going on for quite some time, and I think I've pretty much covered everything that everybody asked, more or less. So yeah, my throat is getting sore. I've never talked for this long in years, and hopefully you're not all yawning at the screen, bored to tears. One of the questions that I got asked quite a few times, and I wanted to wait to this moment, is how do you see this YouTube channel evolving in the next few years? And I've got some thoughts about that. I always try to reinvent and to keep ahead with what's going on. But tell me, what would you like this channel to turn into? What do you like about this channel? What don't you like about this channel? Be completely honest, let me know. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me what you don't like to watch, and I will read through your comments and we will see what we can do. Because I totally love this job. It's my dream job. It's something that I enjoy. I love connecting with a beautiful, huge audience, and so I want to be doing this for quite a while. But I know that it does have to evolve. It does have to become something else to keep it fresh and to keep it moving. We never stagnate. I hope you've enjoyed this one. It's been very fun for me to sit here and be open and honest as much as I can, and to share my life with you as always. Thank you for joining me. Please leave me lots of feedback. Please, whatever you thought of this video, let me know. I love reading the comments, so it'll be fun for me to look through. Alright everybody, do take care, and until next time, see you then.